Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Carly Stevens and this is English Nerd. So I decided to do the Authortube Newbie Tag today because I am pretty new to YouTube. I just started my channel in February of 2018, and primarily up to this point my channel has been focused on some writing advice, but more in the, high school, college kind of helpful tips area. And I still want to continue to do those videos as well as great literature focused videos, but I want to start expanding into some Authortube style videos as well because I am in the midst of writing a novel and I have taught creative writing several times, and even though I don't have all the answers by any means, I think that I have enough to help other people out there. So here we go. I'm going to try to run through this as quickly as I can, but sometimes I can go on a bit, so be gracious. Yes, I have all the questions written down on this. I'm not so technologically savvy that I could be filming myself and have a phone in my hand at the same time, so bear with me. Here we go. Number 1, how did you find out about Authortube? I actually did a Google search of the best author advice channels to search for, and that's how I found a lot of the channels that I watch on a very consistent basis now. I mean, I watch so much YouTube and listen to so many podcasts about craft and about marketing and all that it really has been wonderful, and I've learned a lot. But that's initially how I found a place to start. Number 2, the second question in this tag is what genres do you write in? So primarily I write fantasy novels, and I've recently come to the realization that they are pretty much young adult fantasy novels specifically. I know I shouldn't act like that's, shucks. Young adult works. I really like a lot of young adult stuff. I just didn't want, the fetters of a label or something, which is complete foolishness. So I'm starting to really embrace the idea that I am a young adult fantasy writer for the most part. I have some ideas for works that don't fall into that category, but as far as the vast majority of what I plan to write, that's all going to be fantasy, and it's all going to be set in the same world, and I'm really excited. But more on that later. Number 3, what is your preferred writing tense, POV, and category? So writing tense, I really like third person past tense. I know that it is all the rage to write in first person, especially for young adult, and even present tense. I don't mind first person. First person is great. Present tense messes with my head. Now you have to understand, I was an English major. I am currently an English teacher at a really good high school, and so most of what I've read is just the classics. And so the first time I read a story that was first person present tense, which was The Hunger Games, actually, I was so thrown off, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, Katniss, why are you sitting on this rock writing in this journal when you should be running, just running away? So the real-time present tense thing I really dislike. Third person past is definitely my favorite. Are you a plotter, a pantser, or a plantser? So plantser is a silly word, but I'm probably that. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what my process is, because when I was a lot younger, I was almost completely a pantser. I would just start writing for the love of it and see where it went and follow my characters down little rabbit trails, and maybe I'd get an epiphany one day about something that would happen later in the story, but I didn't do a full-on outline or anything like that. Now I'm finding that if I want to write something in any sort of a timely manner without following all those rabbit trails, I need to get better at creating a comprehensive outline, which is what I'm doing for the sequel to the book that I'm planning to put out first, of course. It's a work in progress, though, so I think that I would say I am currently a combination. I need to know where I'm going, I need to know what the set pieces are, but I don't want to know every detail before I start, so I can kind of feel out the scenes and see where those take me to. Number 5, are you self-published, traditionally published, or yet to be published? So I am yet to be published. I'm finally following my childhood dream and getting my novel published. I want to be an indie writer, so I plan to self-publish. My book's coming out in July. I'll give you lots more information about that later. But it makes sense to me. I like the creative control. I like the ability to come out with the books on your own timeline. And even though it's pretty expensive up front because I don't have any books out with income from that yet, I think it's going to be worth it in the end because there is that control and the larger percentage of sales that would be coming back to me. Now, an advance does sound really attractive, but I'm hoping that I can create a set of books that does well enough that it will make up for that lack of an advance. So I'm yet to be published. Number 6, what is your dream publishing house or literary agent? Now, because I'm planning on being self-published, I don't have a dream publishing house. I think when I was younger, that I would have said Houghton Mifflin because it published Lord of the Rings. So that would be very, very cool, but I don't really have a dream publishing house now. Number 7, what Authortube videos can we expect on your channel? So I would like to offer primarily craft-related videos. I would like to talk about how to create tension, how to use description in a way that really comes alive and isn't boring, how to create villains that are compelling and things like that. So I think it's mostly going to be craft related, but I'll definitely have some editing videos on here because I am in the process of editing and I am learning a lot. And again, I'm an English teacher, so I know a lot of editing tips, maybe not for fiction novels, but a lot that can transfer over to works of fiction as well. So I'll talk about that, and I might do a little bit of marketing later on, but that is definitely not going to be the focus here. The focus is how do you write a better book? Number 8, when did you start writing? Okay, so I think I told this story in my All About Me video, the little 2-minute video. You can check it out down below. I'll link it. But I remember the moment when I decided that I loved writing. So I'm really lucky that I actually remember that moment. It was in 1st grade, and the teacher said that you could either listen to her read a story, or you could sit quietly at your desk and do something on your own. Now, normally I loved story time, but I just wasn't feeling it that day. You know, my 6-year-old self wanted to do something else. And so I sat at my desk and I got a sheet of paper, the one with the 2 lines and then the dotted line in between so you can learn how to write your letters. And I thought, how do I describe the way that snow looks at night coming under a street lamp, like when you can just see it come into the light and then go out all the thousands of flakes. And so I wrote a sentence trying to describe what that looked like, and I was just completely hooked from there. So believe it or not, it sounds fake because it's so specific, but that's legitimately when I decided I wanted to try writing. And I loved English, even though I didn't know that's what it was, what the discipline was called at the time. Number 9, what was the first story you ever wrote? It's kind of hard to pinpoint the first story that I ever wrote. I remember there was this story I wrote in like kindergarten or 1st grade about a mouse in a house, and I drew pictures and everything. I think that story got lost in the house fire my family had when I was 8. So no more mouse with the cheese story, but that was very cute. And then there was another time I saw a mural of a Native American chief with the feathered headdress and everything, and I thought it was really cool. So I tried to write a story about Native Americans, which was so ill-advised because I knew so little about them. This is like the first time I'm ever telling this story. So I also didn't have much of a sense of time because I was, 7 or something when I tried to write this. And so I said that they lived on the plains in the 1980s. And I think my mom gently tried to say something like, you were born in the 1980s. It really wasn't that long ago. You're describing something that was much, further in the past. And I just couldn't take criticism at the time. But there was a story about that too. Hopefully you're all appreciating this honesty because... Yep, so those are the two first stories that I can remember writing. Number 10. What authors have inspired your writing the most? This is, again, really hard to say because I started writing when I was so young, and then I took a substantial break in my adult life. I wrote like a fiend up until I was about 18 or 19, and then I just lost the passion for it. Just didn't really care anymore and didn't write much of anything to speak of. I think 5 short stories and maybe 30 pages in 12 years, which is nothing. And then when I was 30, I picked it back up again. So it's pretty clear to me some of my influences, but they've shifted so much over that time that it's difficult to say. I know Lord of the Rings most definitely had a huge impact on the kinds of themes that I gravitate toward, and for a while my style was imitative of Tolkien, and I've tried to move away from that because I'm not as good at it as he is, and I want to develop my own. But he's up there for sure. Crime and Punishment has taught me a lot about how to create tension. Man, that book, Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, is just so good. If you have not read it, you should definitely read it. Harry Potter also has had a big impact on my life. I still haven't nailed the ensemble feeling that she manages in that book, but I want to get there because it's just, it's so good. And there are lots of other stories that I could credit, I'm sure. I mean, I read these long series when I was a kid that I'm sure had a big impact on my writing, like the Redwall series and Boxcar Children and different things like that. But anyway, those are the stories that come to mind. Hopefully that's enough to answer the question. Movies also had a big influence, I have to say. The concepts in movies and the way that cinematography works has influenced me as well. I really like movies like, The Matrix and Indiana Jones and those adventure kinds of movies, but also the ones that make you think at the same time. So those have had a big impact too. Okay, next question. Number 11. Do you schedule your writing sessions or simply work whenever you find the time? I do both, basically. So over the summer, that's when I really started digging into, well, it was actually before that, a little bit before that, but I started digging into my story and finishing it and editing. And I would say, okay, I'm going to edit today. I'm going to write today. And normally I would do it in the morning, sometimes later on, but I would try to do something for a couple hours every day. It wasn't necessarily scheduled like from 9 to 11 I'm gonna do this, but if I was feeling unmotivated, for instance, I would set a timer for 45 minutes and just go. Or again, especially if I was feeling a little less motivated that day, I would take my laptop and go to a new coffee shop, or I would meet my sister. She has a business where she can work from home as well. So we would meet up for 2 hours or 3 hours and just knock out a bunch of our stuff. So for me, it's more like more of a to-do list check rather than an actual scheduled appointment. But, I get it done. We'll see. We'll see how things work moving forward. Number 12, do you type on a computer, typewriter by hand, or a blend? And then where do you write? So when I'm writing, I like to type on a laptop. So I have I have a laptop that I just put on the, kitchen island and type away there most of the time. I have a new laptop now, which is really nice, but I need to get Microsoft Word on there because I'm kind of old school and I don't want to use Mac devices, but as soon as I have Word on that, then I will use that laptop, which is actually right here. Isn't that a cool cover? I'm very excited. So very soon I'll be writing on that, probably at my desk rather than in the kitchen. When I'm editing, I like doing it longhand. I think it's a lot easier to cross things out, move things around, and then I'll transfer it over to typing after that. Number 13, what are you looking forward to now that you are a part of Authortube? I'm looking forward to a few things. I really like talking about how to improve your writing, so it's just going to be fun for me in general. But I also want to form more relationships with other people that are part of this community, because from what I've seen, it is largely a really helpful and encouraging and kind group of people that I would love to be associated with and help out in any way that I can. So that's it, I suppose. Hopefully that was enough to let you know a bit about me and my style, and to get excited for the Authortube videos to come. So my channel is not only going to be Authortube, I know that would be a wise thing, but I'm still going to offer some helpful, more educational tips for those of you who subscribe to the channel for that reason. And I am also going to fangirl over literature as well. I think one thing that I can offer Authortube that I haven't seen as much of is the set of examples and models that I can draw from, from great literature, and not just modern literature, although there's a ton of great modern literature as well. I think that we can learn how to create better characters from Dickens even. We might not use his long, crazy sentences, but what are some of those things that we can pull out from the great works? So I plan to bring that up sometimes too. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this video and you're looking forward to some Authortube goodness, then make sure to subscribe below. Introduce yourself. If you haven't done that, do so in the comments, and I will see you on Monday.